It's okay to like a bad movie, guys. Hey, Bobo here from ReelBrothers. Thanks for coming back for some more popcorn. I'm doing a special 4th of July episode for the movie Independence Day. Directed by Roland Emmerich and put out by 20th Century Fox. Now I'm sure you guys remember, they marketed this movie like crazy. They had that whole preview where you would see everybody walking out in the middle of the streets, that classic scene that's now been adapted into multiple other movies. Godzilla, Day After Tomorrow. It's become kind of like a tactic to use. But this movie is an alien invasion movie. Straight up. That's what it's about. There's no true like underlying morals or tones or anything that you walk away from the movie being like, you know what, this movie was about more than that. No, it's an alien invasion movie. Now the way this was marketed, I was really excited because it looked serious in tone in the trailer. I didn't think that what we got is what we were going to get. It really made me think like, oh dude, a modern day alien invasion movie. This is gonna be awesome. And so it stars kind of like a half and half cast, that meaning like, it's like they're kind of popular, but they're not really. Will Smith was the only one that was kind of really starting to boom at the time, but I think if I remember correctly, this movie is what made him blow up. But you got the cast, Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, Randy Quaid, Judd Hirsch, Vivica A. Fox, Robert Loggia, Harry Connick Jr. They definitely advertised the crap out of this movie. I remember it being advertised in front of every summer movie, the summer before this was coming out. And we were like, oh my God, another year, what's this thing gonna be like? And when we finally saw the trailer, I started seeing that there was actually like flying ships and things like that. I thought it was gonna be more of like an alien invasion kind of serious tone, like, yeah, you see the ship and everything, but what happens when they're here walking around and trying to invade? I didn't really think it was going to be such a like dogfight movie, and there was a lot of fighter pilot stuff. Barely any contact with the actual aliens, which I guess that was okay. But quickly you start seeing when you're watching this movie that it's just a big budget popcorn film meant to have explosion after explosion, special effects scene after special effects scene, which do not hold up, by the way. But the way they advertised this was crazy. In fact, I remember me and my buddies being on a 4th of July trip. The band that I was in high school growing up, it was called Tioga High School. We were a really awesome band. We got asked to play in the Independence Day parade in Washington, D.C. One band from every state got asked to play in that parade, and we marched in it. I remember while we were there, we had a free day to where we could tour and go around and do all this stuff in Washington, D.C., as long as we were in a group of like 5 or more. And really, my friend Matt, he was really into movies with me. We snuck away and saw this movie instead of touring the Smithsonian and stuff like that like we were supposed to. Man, I could not have been more disappointed. This was at the time where I was getting into serious movies. I was getting into scores for film, like learning about Hans Zimmer. I understood what would make a movie last and what would make a movie feel dated. This movie is definitely dated. And I knew that coming out of it. I knew it wasn't at all what I expected. It was not serious. It shows these ships tacking all of the major cities. And honestly, it was cool. The idea would look cool and everything, but when you see some of these ships coming over the buildings, it honestly looks like an old Ray Harryhausen movie. And with this big of a budget, you would think that they would be able to do something better than they did. And it's not just one time, it's consistently throughout the film. You can try to say that they just weren't up to date with effects quite then and there, but look, I'm sorry, when you have a movie that can be pulled off like Blade Runner, which came out way before this, you don't have any excuses. And they spent a lot more money on this movie than they did Blade Runner. It's just crazy. Not only was I disappointed with the effects, but I was definitely disappointed with the tone and the story.
That's what I call a close encounter.
It was just cheesy. It was all by the books. You get introduced to the cast like they're just like, all right, roll them out here, roll it out here, roll it out. And all the characters that you're following just happen to be in these major cities, which are all coincidentally very important to the solution of beating this alien invasion. There's this one guy with Jeff Goldblum that I love that's got the raspy voices. Listen, we gotta go over here, doll.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I gotta call my brother. I better call my housekeeper. I gotta call my lawyer.
That guy's hilarious. You got Jeff Goldblum, who plays this kind of techie logistical guy. You got Judd Hirsch, who's his dad. Bill Pullman, who's playing the president. And his assistant or advisor is Jeff Goldblum's ex-wife or something. We start realizing that throughout the film. You get introduced to Will Smith when he shows his family. And again, it's just kind of just, all right, here we go. Let's introduce them. Let's just throw, there's no real backstory about any of them. You just see who they are. It's just creating this ensemble of a disaster film, which this movie is fun to rewatch, but it's not a good movie. It's just not. The movie is completely effects driven without being that good at the effects. It's just full of just kind of cheesy stuff. The director, Roland Emmerich, just has a very dead camera the whole time. He has a very, it's bland. The movie is just bland. It's like, where's the slick camera shots? No tasty dialogue, no saucy tension, no dreadful doom. Nothing really interesting is happening except they're just showing you all these characters, and then the alien invasion is happening. And you see it happening in every major city. It's just boom, 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 boom. Over the White House. Empire State Building. You see it over like a desert area. You see very quickly that Will Smith's character is a military guy. He's like, oh, I gotta go in, babe. There's an invasion. She doesn't want him to go and all that stuff, but he gets there and he has to get briefed on a flight that they have to do because they're fighter pilots. And that's where you get introduced to Harry Connick Jr.'s character, which is cheesy. He overacts the entire movie.
On our target positions will be confirmed from the ground.
And I love Harry Connick Jr. I'm from Louisiana. He's a New Orleans boy. I love him. But I can't stand him in this movie. So basically this movie is just full of kind of a lot of build-ups. You're building up with these characters. You're just showing all these scenes that just literally just to kind of shape these characters. But too many characters you don't really care about. Like Randy Quaid's this washed up pilot who's like the town drunk. Everybody thinks he's crazy. He always talks about that he was abducted by aliens at one point. His son's ashamed of him. They live out in the desert area like this mobile home. And then finally we get the attack scene that, you know, we saw that preview for in the actual first trailer where it shows the people walking to the city and they're all looking up to the thing at the light, oh, and then it just boom and everything blows up. It's a cool idea. I guess at the time I remember it looking cool, but it doesn't hold up at all. And I was watching this on Blu-ray last night. There's certain parts where you see the cars flying and the debris flying. I can't explain it. It's not in slow motion, but it's like in this very digitized, like moving way. It looks bad. And I understand what they were trying to go for. It was a lot of ambition. But again, you got other movies like Blade Runner out there that looks like I already talked about. Star Wars, for Pete's sake. Star Wars! I mean, you got all these molds to use and you just do something different. Maybe they were using the technology they didn't understand. When they do the dogfight scene in the air with the alien jets and the American jets, that's pretty cool. Will Smith and them are flying around. Harry Connick gets shot down. Good riddance. All the stuff they're doing and all the maneuvering is cool. I wish that's what the movie would have been like this whole time at least. You know, I wanted it to be dark and tone, but at least it would have been fun if it was this action movie the whole time. But no, it's been build up until this point. And the idea that they're talking about Area 51 and the president doesn't know about it, he thinks it is just a myth, and they say, no, it actually is real.
Why the hell wasn't I told about this place?
Then they go down to Area 51 and they meet the doctor, who's Brent Spiner, Data from Star Trek. I think he was loosely inspired off of Bob Lazar. If you don't know who Bob Lazar is, he's a guy who actually worked in Area 51, claims to have worked on all the aircraft, and saw what they were doing while they were reverse engineering the aircraft that they had found, the crashed alien aircraft. You can watch it on Netflix if you can check it out. It just says Bob Lazar. It's really good. During the explosion, Vivica A. Fox, Will Smith's girlfriend, her and the dog and her son, they go in this subway area and there's an explosion coming through and they make it through, and the effects right there, oh God, it's terrible. And the fact that they make it through like that is ridiculous. And then it shows them walking around later on and they just happen to stumble upon the president's wife. And they start helping her and saving her. When Will Smith crashes with the other alien aircraft and then the alien comes out of the shuttle, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. I mean, he looks awesome, I think. He looks good. And then Will Smith punches him. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. If the alien can be punched and you can knock him out and defeat the alien by punching him, I'm sorry, not threatening at all. What's funny when they're in the lab at this part now in Area 51 and Brent Spiner's in there, they're dissecting the alien and they realize there's another exoskeleton. They open that up. The little like bronze, chrome, silver bug-eyed alien comes out of there. And then it starts like dominating all of them. I don't understand why it could dominate all of them, but Will Smith could just knock it out with a punch. It's weird to me. When it is talking to the doctor, that part where it is kind of scary and it's got like the doctor wrapped up around with its tentacles and it's clearly stating it wants no peace and it wants to destroy the humans, that's pretty cool. That part's creepy.
What is it you want us to do?
They're getting into the president's head and he's like, ugh. then it's like the president can see what they're going to do, which I kind of like that too. Of course, Goldblum happened to be a techie guy. He figures out the signals and he figures out what they're going to do. We got to upload a virus to their computers on their ship, on the mothership. Goldblum and Will Smith end up getting in the jet, the alien jet they've had in Area 51 forever. And they fly out and they start heading up to the shuttle. And Will Smith's joking around and he's flying around and doing flips and everything. It's like, hey, stop playing around, Will. All of that stuff is unnecessary. I understand it's there to keep the audience like entertained and fun, but I've been entertained in movies where it wasn't such a cheap shot all the way through. All these cheap, childish shots. This movie has no originality. All it does is pulls from all these other movies, and it does it as a mediocre level at best. Again, the fact that they made a sequel out of this one, and it was, from what I understand, worse, is amazing to me. Again, they put all this marketing and hoopla behind it. It's like, can't you guys come up with a little something better? And of course, a stupid line that Will Smith says, it's in so many movies, I gotta get me one of these.
I have got to get me one of these!
Alright, but once they get up there in space and get inside the ship, it is pretty cool. I do like that part where they're soaring around. It basically starts flying itself because it's like a automatic docking system. So the goal is to upload this virus to the mothership, and at one point they're flying the plane into like the main docking area, and they show all the aliens just sitting there, and honestly, it's just not threatening. It doesn't look that... At first, I thought the aliens looked cool, and they looked cool when they were in their lab things and in their containers, but at this point, it just didn't look threatening. Everything's coming to a head. The president decides that he's going to fly. He's flying with all the fighters. Randy Quaid's in there now. And there's some cool shots when you get to see the jets in the air and them coming up towards the spaceship. Once the jets even get really in close to some of the ships, I don't know, you just feel like there's a cheapness to it. At least I do. But now the president's like the gold leader from Star Wars. He's controlling everything. He's leading them as a fighter pilot, which is hilarious. They've already gotten New York, they've already gotten Washington, so they're trying to fight this ship with no success, and finally they figure out they have to shoot it right underneath where the weapon is, and it can only happen when they're opening the weapon. And of course Bill Pullman shoots it and he thinks he's going to get it and he misses it. Then Randy Quaid comes in there and he's like, oh God,
I'm not ready, sir. I'm packing.
he's about to shoot it and his missiles malfunction. So he decides he's going to sacrifice himself and go up in there. And they're all like, yeah, you do it. It explodes. And it's all right. That part's not bad. It doesn't look terrible. It shows the son running at the screen, you know, classic. That's my dad.
Dad, what's he doing?
Come on.
What are you doing? Which that kid is a terrible actor. That ship that they're trying to attack blows up. The president makes it out and all right. Whatever. So the last part, Will Smith and Goldblum are on this ship, or on the main mothership in space, mind you, and they're on one of the other aircraft, and it just feels empty. Like, for a big ship like that, this is attacking Earth, and having all these other massive ships out and doing all these other people flying these other ships, it's like, did y'all deploy every alien you had and just had the ship empty? It's like home base, like, you know, college dorms empty for the summer? I don't know, it just seems very empty. Even when they're flying out after they realize how to beat the thing, there's like 3 jets chasing them. It looks cool, but there's only like 3 of them. And they make it back, and it is just an immensely happy ending. Just over the top happy ending, everything. Even there's a moment, everybody's alive, but what about the 2 pilots? It's like, you know they're alive. You saw them already. There's no tension really there, even though the characters are upset. Because they don't know yet, but you know what's going to happen. They end up making it back. Then Vivica A. Fox, Bill Pullman, all the people that have survived over there are waiting on them, and they see him walking off from the distance in the desert. And it's a classic little scene. I mean, honestly, all the shots in this are mediocre. They're attempting something awesome, but to me, it's just the whole movie is just mediocre across the board. Everybody hugs each other. It's all hunky-dory, and then there you have it. Independence Day. Honestly, it's fun to watch for certain reasons, even to make fun of it, certain elements. But it's not a good movie, but it is okay to like it. Thanks for joining me this time again, guys. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. And remember, if you like what you see here, hit the like button and subscribe down below. Look for us on Facebook. Look for BrassReel on Facebook. You can find me, BrassReel Bobby, at BrassReel on Twitter. And be sure to tune in for the next episode, Jaws. Now this was a force to be reckoned with. And remember, life gives you lemons. Make some hot, fresh popcorn. See you guys.